I need to open with thanking the governor for a proposed $800 million increase in her executive budget proposal for the New York State DOT core program. The governor's proposed increase helps New York State DOT restore the original buying power of the New York State DOT's 5-year capital plan that has been eroded by unprecedented construction material cost inflation. Further thanks to the governor needs to go for including in her executive budget the New York State automated work zone speed enforcement, making it permanent, and expanding that program to the Triborough Bridge Tunnel Authority and the New York State Bridge Authority. Speed and work zones kill. There's no question about it. The test of this enforcement is shown. I mean, some of the speeds through the work zone that they caught were just frightening, but it is acted as a deterrent. And yes, more people are getting tickets, but if you're speeding in a work zone, you're going to get a ticket. Further, the executive budget includes legislation for transportation worker protections. These protections expand the categories of transportation worker that qualify for enhanced assault protections. We thank the governor for including this as well. A big thank you to our Hudson Valley Senate and Assembly delegation, and to Chris Burdick and Mary Jane Shimsky, who are here today. You've been tireless with pushing the issue here, and it does not go unnoticed, and it is greatly appreciated. Further, a big thank you to CIC's partners in organized labor. All of you here. Your consistent push and being here and acting together has allowed us to get to this potential victory here with the $800 million. We don't have it yet, but we're much closer, and we're much better off this year than we were last year. And again, thanks to the governor for that. The governor's executive proposal will put the men and women of organized labor to work improving our roads and bridges. We have more to do. We asked the New York State Assembly and the New York State Senate Hudson Valley delegation to, number one, include the governor's proposed $800 million increase in the New York State DOT core program, along with the automated work zone speed enforcement and expanded transportation worker protections in your respective one-house budget proposals. Number two, our local municipalities, which are the counties, towns, and villages, need increased funding for our local roads. When people are driving on roads, they don't know if it's a state road or a local road, but they do know when they get a flat tire, they blow it out, that it shouldn't be that way. We are asking both the Assembly and Senate delegations to include a $250 million increase in CHIPS funding for local roads in their one-house budget proposals. This proposed increase helps restore the buying power of our local municipalities, which have been eroded by the same unprecedented construction materials costs. And this increase is proportionate with the same amount being asked for the New York State DOT core program. Number three, and this one I think we're starting to make some headway with, but you saw it in the video, and the numbers don't lie. These are New York State DOT's numbers. Every year they go out and they do a road rating. These are engineers. These aren't the CIC's number or organized labor's numbers. The road conditions in the Hudson Valley, represented by Region 8, are the worst and have been the worst road and bridge conditions in New York State for over 10 years. That's the numbers, and they don't lie. We have more road miles in Region 8 and more bridges in Region 8 than any other region, except for Region 8 receives on average the third highest amount of funding. I don't get that. Again, the numbers don't lie. Lane miles, more bridges, we get the third highest amount of funding. And we have the worst road and bridge conditions for 10 years. You know, my little joke about that is, and not many may appreciate this, but if all regions of New York State DOT were lined up all at once to get into the emergency room of the hospital, and someone had to come out and do triage, Region 8 would be the first one in the door. How do you fix that? With additional funding. So that is one of our asks. Personally, I don't have a magic bullet on how that occurs, but I can say to you it's either that the formula that the existing funding is distributed on gets adjusted or changed, and or there's just a supplemental incremental amount of money that goes to Region 8. We need to recover the conditions, and you know, our area is populous. We have a lot of taxpayers. We deserve a little better on that. So exactly how that gets done, I don't know, but we're going to continue to raise the issue. So I want to again thank you all, our partners in labor, Hudson Valley Senate and Assembly delegation, you've been terrific. You got us to where we are now, which is a great opportunity from where we were last year. And I'd like now to turn the program over to Chris or Mary Jane, either one of you who would like to come up and speak first.
First of all, thank you, John. And why don't we give John a round of applause for the tremendous work he's been doing. It's very good to be here with my friends, both in the construction industry, CSC, and my friends in labor. And, you know, one of the things that when I get up to speak about a particular issue, and I'm speaking in front of friends and advocates, one of the first things I say, and I'll say it here now, is that your voices really, really matter. That collectively you can move the needle. And as John was mentioning, you have moved the needle. I remember last December, Senator Pete Harckham called a press conference. And this time, instead of doing a press conference about budget, in the middle of the budget, it was December, before the governor came out with her proposed budget. And the number that we asked for was $800 million. Now, I cannot tell you whether that was coincidence or not. All I know is that had an impact. And a lot of you folks were there, too. So continue to push. Now, I can tell you some of the things that I hear when I go to the supermarket, when I knock on doors. You know, you would think that the first thing that people would complain about are their taxes. The first thing that people complain about are the roads. What are you doing to fix the roads? And as John was saying, people don't know whether it's a state road, a local road, county road. They don't know that. They just want the roads fixed. And when I talk to Pete Harckham, when I talk to Mary Jane, when I talk to my colleagues, they're telling me the same thing. Well, right now, actually, it's kind of their insane rate increase. But in any event, things are really out of whack. We're reaching 8, as we've mentioned again and again, and we have to keep on banging that drum, has the most number of lane miles, most number of bridges, but we are not getting our fair share. I can assure you that I'm going to do everything that I can, not only to make sure that the $800 million goes into the one house, but we get the $250 million for CHIPS. We've got to do that, because otherwise we're not going to get this stuff fixed. I also will promise to you that I'm going to continue to go talk to the governor's people. It's not enough to talk to the commission. You got to go to the second floor, and I'm going to continue to do that. Because when you keep making that noise, maybe you're going to get things changed. Maybe they're going to change some the way they allocate this. But we cannot get the additional money for Region 8 unless we get that $800 million in the budget and we get the $250 million for CHIPS. We've got to get that done. And I can assure you I'm going to do everything possible to get that done. And thank you for everything you're doing. Let's keep pushing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's my honor to call up Assemblywoman Mary Jane Shinsky.
Thank you, John, and everyone here from the Construction Industry Council. Thank you also to our host, Teamsters Local 456 in Luther County, and to all of the union members in the construction, the building trades, and in the Teamsters, the AFL-CIO, all of you. The way we get things done like this in Albany, the way we can take a big policy thing that people have just gotten weary of and said, oh, it's never going to happen. The way we make it happen is, number one, we build a winning coalition. And having industry and labor on the same side on this was really, really critical. When you join that with the constituents who have so many horror stories about the roads. Us, we have bad experiences with the roads. We spend a lot of time on the local roads. We know where the bad parts are. By the way, next year, can we get Dobbs Ferry Road up here? But it's a matter of pulling together everyone who has an interest in good roads. And to tell you the truth, that's almost everybody. We got the coalition together. The timing of the effort, as Chris pointed out, it got started several months early at this time, and we were able to get that $800 million in the governor's budget, which is a really big deal. Now, in terms of what we do for the rest of budget season, our local governments need the CHIPS increase. There's absolutely no question about it. A couple years ago, we started getting an extra $100 million for CHIPS in our one house and then getting it into the final budget. But the problem with that was that that $100 million may be made up for a third of the COVID era inflation that our governments were getting. And after year one, we were not increasing it. So that's become an ever shrinking percentage of the increases that our local governments need, which is why that $250 million is so important, because that will make a difference in the quality of our local roads throughout the state. The worker protections, boy, is that obvious. I remember when I first moved to Hastings, I used to stay at that traffic light on the sawmill where the turn is to Farragut Parkway. If someone was speeding past that, and I was in a car weighing a few thousand pounds, right? The car just shook like crazy. If that happens to a person who's standing in the next lane, they can very easily be knocked over with serious injuries attached. We do need to do that. And I don't even know what to say about people who assault road employees. It just goes to show that we also have a mental health issue that we also have to deal with. But making sure that we make people come to account for such aberrant behavior is critical. The one thing I would like to say before I sit down is we know that there's a lot that's going on in Washington right now. And that can end up affecting the finances in New York State in a lot of bad ways. And people are going to start looking at each other and trying to prioritize. What I would say is we need to keep roads on the priority list. And I'll give you 3 reasons for that. Number 1, bad road conditions are a hidden tax. It's not just an aesthetic thing. It hurts our constituents' pocketbooks in really meaningful ways. By area, it differs, but by motorist, in the Syracuse area, bad roads cost the average motorist over $400 a year. In New York City, that number rises to over $700 a year. That comes from needed car repairs. That comes from traffic delays. That comes from all kinds of things that happen when your roads are bad. The second thing is keeping the road program going creates good union jobs. It makes good middle class union jobs. It keeps our local businesses who are involved in the building trades, whether they produce the asphalt, whether they're the contractors, whoever they are, it keeps them going too. Infrastructure, especially roads and bridges, are an integral part of our economy, and we need to keep that going in the worst of times as well as the best of times. The third thing I would say is, I'm not going to go into the history of the Roman Empire or nation building in Afghanistan, but the quality roads are integral to economic development. How do you bring people into this area, asking them to buy $1 million house, asking them to invest hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in our local economy, and send them down a road like 9A, or send them down to the part of 9A that was shown on this film, the Peekskill Briarcliff Parkway. How do you send them down my favorite Dobbs Ferry Road? Why would people want to invest here when they see how well our infrastructure is being taken care of? We need to do this, and we need to make sure the investment is not just spent this year, but in order to catch up with the more than a decade of neglect of our roads, we are going to need sustained investment. And as I said, that investment, in good times or in bad, will do great things to help our economy, as well as get us the roads that our constituents deserve and that we need for economic development. So thank you very much, everybody. Let's stay in it, excuse the pun, for the long haul.
Now turn it over to Sean from Neil Beeman's office.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. I'd like to first thank our partners in CIC and New York State DOT. I actually just took the Taconic down from our district office today, and I saw it firsthand how bad the road conditions are. As someone in Beacon actually has the pleasure of representing a good portion of the Taconic State Parkway, and we get dozens upon dozens upon dozens of calls a week just complaining about potholes or just damage on the side of the road. And we absolutely support you, we stand with you, and we know how much of a critical issue this is. So anything you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. We're here for you, and I'd just like to thank you for having me here today. Thank you.
Now we're going to turn it over to the CIC's partners in labor, and I'm going to first call up our host, Lou Bacani from Local 456.
I want to first thank everybody for coming here today to the press conference addressing the governor's executive budget proposal, which includes an $800 million increase to the New York State DOT capital plan. I especially at this time want to thank John Cooney, Executive Director to the CIC, who never once stopped working to get increased funding, who's constantly working to achieve this. But especially to organized labor, all the brothers and sisters who stand with the CIC as partners to fight for what is needed. Again, you can't get a greater relationship than organized labor and the CIC, because together it's a force that cannot be beat. I want to thank the senators and assembly members who also come here, last year, this year, to show the need of this. Nobody would show up just to talk. This is so important. It affects all our members, it affects all the constituents in our area, and it is so vital that we continue fighting. It's always been and always will be an issue for us, so we're not going to stop here. It's only a needle in a haystack, per se, to get this funding, but we're going to continue going on. It sounds like a lot of money, but with the needs in the roads, as everybody's spoken, it's not going to even cover any of the grounds that we need fixed. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming here today. I want to especially show how important it is to the Senate and the Assembly to get it into their one-house budget and make sure we push. And again, if there's any opposition and anybody we need to talk to, reach out, because we can't say that we fell asleep at the wheel while we're on the road. So again, let us know where we have to go, where our weaknesses might be, so we can continue on, because this is important to our members again and to our constituents that are out there. So there's not one person's life that this doesn't touch. So again, thank you for everybody. Again, thank you to our Executive Director, CIC, John Cooney, because again, I've never seen somebody work as hard on the other side. And again, he works as hard as organized labor does, so it's a great fit. So thank you again.
Now it's my pleasure to call up the Vice President of the Westchester Putnam Building Trades Council, business agent, Carpenters Local 279, Ed Cook.
So John asked me to speak for about 25 minutes. I told him I could give him about 27. Now, I hope this takes better than a cold patch on a cold road. Because yesterday, driving in Route 6 in Yorktown, I watched our great and honorable DOT workers working with the tools they had. They were doing a cold patch of asphalt out of a bag on a road that had to be 15 degrees. Everybody knows that that's a short-term gap, and it's just to take a sinkhole out of the road. So I hope what I say lasts a little bit longer than a cold patch does on a cold day. I'd like to thank the Senate and the Assembly and the Governor's Office for the $800 million. We are in a deficit. We need that $250 million because of outrageous construction material costs. To Mary Jane's point about Dobbs Ferry Road, probably a year ago, we had an earthquake in New Jersey. And my daughter had called me right after my whole truck shook. But I never equated my truck shaking to the earthquake. I thought it was the roads. My daughter called me in a panic because her cabinets opened, her kitchen table, all the stuff fell over, the lamp on the table fell over, the candlesticks fell over, and that was the earthquaking. I attributed to my truck shaking as violently as it did to the road, Dobbs Ferry Road. You know, talk is cheap, tires are expensive. That's the reality. What we do on these roads every day, and our great DOT workers and our professional contractors, is we patch them. There's a better way. We need to get down to the proper substrate. We need to reformat these roads so they last. Throwing money after money after money on roads that are insufficient and bridges that are insufficient won't work in Westchester County. Our membership, which is about 33,000 members in the Westchester-Putnam area for our building trades, go to work, we rely on these roads. Many of our members are first responders. They're volunteers in the fire department. Many of our members work on the ambulance. You don't want them getting in an accident because the road conditions are horrid. Driving to work, coming here today, Route 6 in Yorktown. It was like driving on a dirt road that hadn't been scraped in 15 years. It's not right. Region 8 deserves better. We are one of the regions that put in the most per capita into the DOT budget annually, yet as John Cooney said, we're number 3 on the list. We have more roads and bridges in this area than most other areas in the state. We're told it's number 1, right? We work, we repair these bridges, we fix these bridges, we keep New York State rolling the building trades. Our professional contractors use skilled apprentices, skilled professionally trained journeymen, and all we want to do is get to work safely and on time. We pay our taxes, and we want to see some good things come from the tax. It's like common sense, right? Chris Burdick said the number 1 comment he gets is on the condition of the roads. Well, yeah, it's common sense. But putting cold asphalt in a pothole on a 13-degree day isn't common sense. Professionally fixing the road in June, April, May, when the temperatures are correct and the road work can be done properly, that's when we succeed. New York State is the greatest state in the nation. I'm proud to be a New Yorker. I'm not proud to be on our roads. You drive north of 84, you're like you're in a different country. You drive south of 84, and the road and bridge conditions are horrendous. And we've been put in this position by New York State government, not the DOT, not the DOT workers, but short-sightedness in funding. We need to correct this. We need to correct it sooner than later because the longer we wait, the more expensive it goes. You know, $800 million will turn to $2 billion. And having good infrastructure, to your point, not only road infrastructure, but electric infrastructure with the new world that's coming out is critical. And we can't do that without properly using, properly accounting for, using common sense in getting our roads repaired and our infrastructure repaired and our bridges repaired, using professionally trained, professional labor, and our professional contractors. That's what makes the CIC and building trades labor work so well together, is our professional contractors and their representative understand the value of professionally trained craftsmen, and they like to share the wealth. They like to get a good job done. They like to get the job done on time, with on-time performance, utilizing tax-paying citizens. So with that, again, you know, talk is cheap and tires are expensive, and the only one that's benefiting right now from the road conditions is probably the dentists. So with that, I'd like to thank John Cooney, our host 456, the New York State delegation that's here today, and let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. I think this concludes the press conference, but I just want to close it up, and I do need to open and say thank you to Governor Hochul for including the $800 million in our executive budget. It goes a long way, and it does recognize, I think, the effort that was started here, but we need to appreciate that, and also the speed camera and the worker protection things that were in there as well. That's thoughtful and the correct kind of move. So thank you to the governor. Thank you to the New York State Assembly and Senate Hudson Valley delegation. I truly believe that your delegation is the one that raised the awareness of this across the state and helped motivate the governor. The governor listened and she delivered, and we appreciate that. And then always, thank you very much to our partners in labor, the CIC and organized labor, working together, and this tradition was established well before me by Ross Pepe. We work on trust and we get things done. I appreciate all of your effort and being here today, and let's just make sure we get this to the finish line. Thank you all very much.